The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Federation stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floors, its walls reaching into darkness above. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, each area carefully climate-controlled for their specific needs. The Zephyrians floated in their gravity-dampened pods, while the silicon-based Krythek delegates rested on heated stone platforms that glowed with internal fire. Ambassador Veltar of the Centauri Collective adjusted his breathing apparatus and checked his translation device one final time. Today's emergency session would determine the fate of a small blue planet on the galaxy's outer rim. Earth, they called it, a world that had recently achieved faster-than-light communication and had begun sending crude signals into space. The hegemony of Krax had petitioned for immediate annexation. Their military doctrine was simple: identify developing civilizations, evaluate their resources, and either incorporate them into the Empire or eliminate potential future threats. Earth had caught their attention 6 rotations ago when human radio waves first reached their listening posts. War Marshal Thurok of Krax rose from his reinforced platform, his forearms gesturing dramatically as holographic displays materialized around him. Fellow representatives, we stand at a crossroads. This primitive species has achieved nuclear capability and basic space travel. Their planet contains abundant water, rare earth elements, and perfect atmospheric conditions for 17 of our member species. The hologram showed Earth in stunning detail: blue oceans, green continents, white cloud formations swirling across the surface. Cities sparkled like scattered jewels across the landmasses, connected by networks of light that pulsed with activity. Their military technology remains laughably primitive, Thurok continued, his mandibles clicking with amusement. They fight with chemical propellants and metal projectiles. Their largest vessels barely reach their own moon. A single Krax destroyer could pacify their entire planet within 1 solar cycle. Murmurs of agreement rippled through several sections of the chamber. The hegemony's proposal had merit from a purely strategic standpoint. Earth was resource-rich and seemingly defenseless. Standard protocol suggested swift annexation before the humans developed more advanced weaponry. Ambassador Veltar felt his twin hearts racing as he prepared to speak. His own species, the Centauri, had learned hard lessons about underestimating younger civilizations. Their archives contained detailed records of first contact protocols gone wrong, of species that seemed primitive but possessed hidden strengths. He activated his speaking platform's enhancement field, and his voice carried clearly across the vast chamber. Honored colleagues, I must strongly advise against any hostile action toward Earth. The Centauri Collective has conducted extensive observations of this species, and what we have discovered should give us all pause. Thurok's eyes narrowed to slits. The Centauri have grown soft in their old age. These humans are barely beyond stone tools by galactic standards. What could they possibly possess that would threaten our combined fleets? Veltar's breathing slits flared, a sign of agitation among his people. War Marshal, your intelligence reports focus only on their current military capabilities. You have failed to analyze their psychological profiles, their historical patterns, or their unique evolutionary adaptations. He gestured, and his own holographic displays flickered to life. Instead of showing weapons or cities, the images depicted humans in various scenarios. Athletes pushing their bodies beyond apparent physical limits. Explorers venturing into hostile environments. Scientists working tirelessly in laboratories. Observe their athletic competitions, Veltar said, highlighting footage of human Olympic events. They regularly push their bodies to levels that would hospitalize most galactic species. Their marathon runners maintain speeds for distances that our bioengineers deemed impossible for their muscle structure. Their swimmers hold their breath for periods that should cause brain death. The chamber grew quieter as representatives leaned forward to examine the displays. A human weightlifter was straining against massive iron plates. His face contorted with effort, but his determination unwavering. This is merely physical capability, Thurok interjected. Strength means nothing against plasma weapons and shield technology. You miss the point entirely, Veltar replied. These displays of physical capability reflect something far more dangerous. Their mental conditioning. Humans have evolved on a planet that actively tries to kill them. Every natural disaster, every predator, every disease has shaped them into survivors. The displays changed, showing human settlements in hostile environments, research stations in Antarctic ice, cities built on earthquake fault lines, communities thriving in desert wastelands where no other species would attempt habitation. They build their homes where our environmental suits would fail within hours, Veltar continued. They explore ocean depths that would crush most of our vessels. They have sent missions to their moon using technology so primitive that our engineers cannot comprehend how they survived the journey. A representative from the aquatic Mordesh delegation spoke up, her voice bubbling through the translation matrix. Surely you exaggerate, Ambassador. No species could be so universally capable. Veltar's display shifted to show human medical procedures. Surgeons working for 20-hour stretches, performing intricate operations while standing, emergency responders running into burning buildings to save strangers, researchers exposing themselves to dangerous diseases to develop treatments. They routinely risk their lives for others, even those they do not know. This is not occasional heroism. Colleagues, this is standard behavior. Their entire society is built around the concept that individuals will sacrifice themselves for the group's survival. The War Marshal's claws scraped against his platform. Admirable. Perhaps, but irrelevant. Bravery cannot stop a planetary bombardment. Cannot it? Veltar's voice carried a warning tone that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. Let me share what our deep cover observation teams discovered about human warfare. The holographic display now showed historical human conflicts. Massive armies clashing across continents. Naval battles spanning vast oceans. Aerial combat in the skies above burning cities. In their most recent global conflict, they fought for 6 years across every continent and ocean on their planet simultaneously. They developed and deployed nuclear weapons against each other, then continued fighting. When their enemies captured their territories, human resistance fighters operated behind enemy lines for years, living off the land, striking from shadows. Veltar paused, allowing the implications to settle. They have fought wars in every possible environment on their planet. Frozen tundra, burning deserts, dense jungles, mountain peaks, underground tunnel systems. They have fought from the air, on the surface, beneath the waves, and in underground complexes. The display showed the complexity of human military organization. Logistics chains spanning continents. Coordination between multiple branches of service. Rapid adaptation to new technologies and tactics. But here is what should terrify you all, Veltar said, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried perfectly through the chamber's acoustics. They were fighting with primitive chemical weapons, basic metallurgy, and combustion engines. Imagine these tactical capabilities combined with galactic standard technology. A chill settled over the assembly. Even Thurok had stopped his aggressive posturing and was studying the human warfare footage with growing unease. The Centauri archives contain simulation runs based on human tactical doctrines, Veltar continued. Our war computers project that if humans possessed our level of technology, they could successfully resist the combined fleets of 17 galactic powers. Not defeat, perhaps, but resist long enough to make conquest economically unfeasible. The silicate delegates spoke through harmonic resonance. These simulations must contain errors. No single species could be so militarily capable. Veltar's breathing slits expanded fully, expressing deep concern. I wish that were true. But there is something else you must understand about humans, something that makes them uniquely dangerous in the galaxy. He gestured, and the display changed once more, showing human exploration efforts. Submarines diving to ocean floors, spacecraft launching toward distant planets, telescopes scanning deep space. They are the only species we have ever encountered that actively seeks contact with the unknown. Every other civilization we have observed becomes cautious upon achieving space travel. They explore carefully, establish safe perimeters, proceed with measured steps. The footage showed human space missions. Astronauts walking on their moon, robots exploring other planets, radio telescopes scanning for signs of alien life. Humans launched themselves into space before their technology was truly ready. They sent manned missions to their moon before they had reliable life support systems. They are currently planning missions to their neighboring planets, using technology that has a significant failure rate. Veltar's voice carried a note of amazement mixed with horror. They know these missions might fail. They know they might die. They go anyway, because they must know what lies beyond their world. This is not scientific curiosity, colleagues. This is a fundamental psychological drive that overrides their survival instincts. The chamber fell completely silent as the implications sank in. Species that actively sought out the unknown were dangerous in ways that went beyond military capability. They could not be contained by fear or uncertainty. If we attack Earth, Veltar said quietly, we will not be conquering a primitive world. We will be awakening something that evolution spent millions of years creating. A species designed to survive in any environment, fight any enemy, and never surrender as long as a single individual remains alive. His final words echoed in the vast chamber. An Earth invasion would not be conquest. It would be teaching humans about galactic technology, galactic weaknesses, and galactic fear. It would be sheer madness. The silence stretched across the council chamber like a physical weight. War Marshal Thurok's 4 eyes glowed with barely contained fury as he processed Ambassador Veltar's words. Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of species shifted nervously in their environmental pods and platforms. Finally, Thurok's voice boomed through the translation matrix, his words dripping with contempt. The Centauri speak of shadows and speculation. Where is your proof, Ambassador? Show us concrete evidence that these primitives pose any real threat to our advanced civilizations. Veltar's breathing apparatus cycled slowly as he prepared his response. He had hoped his warnings would be sufficient. But the War Marshal demanded evidence. Very well. The truth about humanity was far stranger and more terrifying than any fiction. You want proof, War Marshal? Very well. I shall present the findings of our deep observation protocols. Veltar's gesture activated a new series of holographic displays. These are not simulations or theoretical projections. These are documented human behaviors observed over the past 50 rotations. The first display showed a massive human structure rising impossibly high into the sky, its peak lost in clouds. This is what humans call a skyscraper. They routinely construct buildings that extend beyond the safe atmospheric limits of their world. When we asked our structural engineers to analyze these constructions, they declared them impossible. The display zoomed in to show construction workers moving across narrow beams, hundreds of meters above the ground, with no safety harnesses or protective fields. These are not automated construction systems or remote-controlled devices. These are humans physically building these structures, working at altitudes where a fall means certain death. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Most galactic species used automated systems for any construction work above ground level. But surely, interjected the floating representative from Zephyr Prime, they must have safety protocols, emergency systems, to prevent accidents. Veltar's display shifted to show human emergency responders. Firefighters running into burning buildings, paramedics working in war zones, Coast Guard teams launching boats into storm-ravaged seas. They do have emergency systems, Veltar replied. The emergency systems consist of other humans who voluntarily risk their lives to save their fellows. When their buildings catch fire, humans run into the flames to rescue those trapped inside. When their aircraft crash, other humans fly into dangerous weather to search for survivors. The footage showed a helicopter pilot maneuvering through a blizzard to reach stranded climbers on a mountain peak. The aircraft was being battered by winds that should have torn it apart, yet the pilot continued the rescue operation. Observe their disaster response protocols, Veltar continued. The display now showed humans responding to natural catastrophes, earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions. When faced with planetary disasters that would cause other species to evacuate entire continents, humans run toward the danger zones. The images showed rescue workers digging through rubble with their bare hands, medical teams setting up field hospitals in active war zones, volunteer crews sandbagging flood barriers while standing waist-deep in rushing water. War Marshal Thurok studied the displays with growing confusion. This behavior makes no evolutionary sense. Why would a species develop such self-destructive tendencies? Because, Veltar replied, his voice carrying the weight of deep research. They are not self-destructive tendencies. They are survival adaptations that have been refined over millions of years of evolution on one of the most hostile worlds in the galaxy. The holographic display changed to show Earth's environmental data. Atmospheric composition, gravitational forces, radiation levels, geological activity. Earth experiences more natural disasters per rotation than most civilized worlds encounter in a century. Volcanic eruptions, seismic events, atmospheric storms, temperature fluctuations that would require environmental suits on any other planet. Humans have evolved to thrive in conditions that would be considered uninhabitable by galactic standards. A new series of images showed human habitations in extreme environments. Cities built on volcanic slopes, communities thriving in polar regions, settlements in flood-prone river deltas. They do not simply survive these conditions, Veltar emphasized. They choose to live in the most dangerous areas because those locations offer strategic or economic advantages. They have calculated that the benefits outweigh the risks of natural destruction. The Silicate delegate's harmonic voice resonated with disbelief. This suggests a level of risk assessment that borders on madness. Or genius, Veltar replied. Consider their technological development timeline. The display now showed human technological progress. From stone tools to nuclear weapons, in mere thousands of years. From first-powered flight to space travel in less than a century. Most species require hundreds of thousands of years to achieve what humans accomplished in a fraction of that time. They have consistently chosen rapid advancement over safety, pushing forward despite failure rates that would cause other civilizations to abandon entire research programs. The footage showed human test pilots flying experimental aircraft that had significant chances of catastrophic failure. Astronauts launching into space in vehicles that had barely been tested, researchers working with dangerous materials to develop new technologies. But here is what makes them truly dangerous to any invasion force, Veltar said, his tone becoming deadly serious. Their response to existential threats. The display showed human historical records. Armies facing overwhelming odds, cities under siege for years. Resistance movements operating under impossible conditions. When faced with superior enemies, humans do not surrender. They adapt. During their global conflicts, they studied enemy tactics, reverse-engineered captured equipment, and developed countermeasures faster than their opponents could modify their strategies. The footage showed human factories retooling from civilian production to military equipment in a matter of weeks. Scientists working around the clock to develop new weapons and defensive systems, civilian populations supporting war efforts despite constant danger. In one documented case, humans surrounded in a city for 900 days not only survived but continued to resist, developing new tactics and maintaining military effectiveness despite being cut off from all supply lines. War Marshal Thurok's claws clicked against his platform. Ancient history. Modern warfare requires technological superiority, not primitive determination. Veltar's breathing slits expanded in what his species used as a warning display. Is it? Let me show you something that should give every military commander in this chamber nightmares. The holographic display now showed modern human military exercises. Coordinated operations involving millions of personnel, logistics systems spanning continents, communication networks, managing complexity that challenged galactic standards. This is how humans prepare for warfare in their current primitive state. They conduct training exercises involving their entire planetary population. Every adult human receives basic military training. Their civilian infrastructure is designed to convert to military production within days. The display showed human industrial capacity. Factories capable of rapid retooling, transportation networks designed for military logistics, communication systems with multiple redundancies and hardened components. They have created a civilization that can function as a single, planet-wide military unit when threatened. Their economic systems, transportation networks, educational institutions, and social structures all serve dual civilian and military purposes. Representative Kyle Moth of the Traders Consortium spoke for the first time, her crystalline voice carrying concerned harmonics. Surely this level of militarization creates internal conflicts? No species can maintain such readiness without social breakdown. Veltar's response carried undertones of deep respect mixed with fear. That is perhaps the most terrifying aspect of human psychology. They have somehow balanced individual creativity with collective coordination. Their military preparedness exists alongside artistic expression, scientific research, and cultural development that rivals the greatest civilizations in galactic history. The display showed human achievements in art, music, literature, and philosophy, interwoven with their military and technological capabilities. They produce warriors and poets from the same population. Their soldiers write music. Their artists serve in combat units. Their scientists develop both life-saving medicines and devastating weapons. They have somehow avoided the social stratification that limits other species' effectiveness. The chamber fell silent as representatives contemplated this information. The implications were staggering. A species that combined military readiness with intellectual development, individual initiative with collective coordination, and, Veltar added quietly, they have achieved all of this while believing they are alone in the universe. Everything you have observed represents their capabilities, while assuming they face only threats from their own world and natural disasters. He paused, allowing the full weight of this revelation to settle over the assembly. Imagine their response when they discover they are not alone. Imagine their adaptation speed when they realize there are hostile civilizations with superior technology. Imagine their determination when they understand that their entire species, their entire world, faces extinction. War Marshal Thurok had stopped his aggressive posturing and was staring at the human displays with something approaching horror. An invasion of Earth, Veltar concluded, would not result in the conquest of a primitive world. It would result in the creation of the most dangerous enemy the galaxy has ever faced. Humans with galactic technology, unified by existential threat, and motivated by the survival of their entire species. The ambassador's final words echoed through the vast chamber. We would be creating our own nemesis. The council chamber remained frozen in contemplative silence for several long minutes after Ambassador Veltar finished his presentation. Representatives from across the galaxy processed the disturbing information about humanity, their usual political posturing forgotten in the face of such revelations. War Marshal Thurok was the first to break the silence, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Even accepting your observations as accurate, Ambassador, you speak of potential threats. The humans remain primitive. A swift strike could eliminate them before they could adapt or learn our technologies. Veltar's breathing apparatus cycled slowly, a sign of deep concern among his people. War Marshal, you still fail to understand the true nature of the threat. Allow me to share one final piece of evidence that should settle this matter permanently. The holographic displays flickered and changed, now showing what appeared to be a standard human dwelling in a suburban area. The structure looked unremarkable by galactic standards. Simple construction, basic materials, modest dimensions. Our observation teams conducted detailed scans of average human residences, Veltar explained. What we discovered defies all conventional understanding of civilian populations. The display zoomed in to reveal the interior of the human home. The representatives leaned forward as they saw shelves lined with books on advanced subjects, engineering manuals, medical texts, historical military strategies, scientific journals. This is not the home of a military specialist or government official, Veltar continued. This belongs to what humans classify as an ordinary citizen. Observe the scope of knowledge readily available to their civilian population. The scan revealed more details. A workshop in the basement equipped with precision tools, chemical supplies stored in a garage, electronic components organized in storage containers. This individual, like millions of others, possesses the knowledge and materials necessary to manufacture complex devices, not as a profession, but as a hobby. They call it do-it-yourself culture. Representative Zealandra of the Psychic Collective projected her confusion directly into the translation matrix. Why would civilians require such capabilities? This level of individual preparedness suggests a society under constant threat. Exactly, Veltar replied grimly. But the threats are not external enemies. They are natural disasters, equipment failures, infrastructure breakdowns, and personal emergencies. Humans have evolved to assume that they cannot rely on others for their survival. The display showed more examples. Humans building their own vehicles, constructing additions to their homes, repairing complex machinery, growing their own food, even treating their own injuries. Every human adult possesses what we would consider advanced technical skills across multiple disciplines. They can construct, repair, modify, and improve almost any technology they encounter. This is not specialized training. This is basic cultural education. War Marshal Thurok's mandibles clicked with growing unease. You suggest that their entire population consists of potential engineers and technicians? Worse, Veltar replied. Much worse. Show them a piece of technology once, and they will understand its principles. Show them twice, and they will improve upon it. Give them access to our equipment, and within rotations, they will be manufacturing superior versions. The holographic display changed to show human reverse engineering efforts, captured enemy equipment being disassembled, analyzed, and reproduced during their historical conflicts. In every major conflict, humans have captured enemy technology, and not only replicated it, but enhanced it beyond the original specifications. They do this rapidly, efficiently, and with minimal resources. The display showed human factories producing improved versions of captured aircraft, weapons systems enhanced beyond their original capabilities, communication equipment modified to exceed enemy specifications. But perhaps most disturbing is their approach to problem solving. Veltar continued. When faced with technical challenges, humans do not seek incremental improvements. They seek revolutionary solutions that render previous approaches obsolete. The footage now showed human technological leaps, from radio communication to satellite networks, from basic computers to global information systems, from chemical rockets to theoretical faster-than-light drives. They do not improve existing technologies gradually over centuries, as most species do. They completely revolutionize entire fields within decades. Their technological development follows exponential curves that our scientists initially dismissed as impossible. Representative Mordesh bubbled her concern through the aquatic translation system. Such rapid advancement must destabilize their society. No civilization can handle that rate of change. Veltar's response carried notes of awe and terror. That is exactly what makes them so dangerous. They thrive on instability. Their entire social structure is designed to adapt rapidly to changing conditions. They view constant change as normal and healthy. The display showed human society adapting to new technologies, cities rebuilding around transportation innovations, industries transforming completely within single generations, social structures evolving to accommodate technological advancement. Most species require centuries to integrate new technologies into their societies. Humans accomplish this integration in years or decades. They are not disrupted by change, they are energized by it. The chamber fell silent again as representatives contemplated a species that actively embraced technological and social upheaval. Now, Veltar said quietly, consider what happens when this adaptive capacity encounters galactic-level technology during a planetary invasion. The holographic display showed theoretical projections based on human behavioral patterns, captured alien equipment being rapidly analyzed and reproduced, human resistance movements armed with hybrid technologies, entire cities transforming into fortress complexes using advanced materials and energy systems. Within one rotation of initial contact, human resistance forces would be employing our own weapons against us. Within 2 rotations, they would be producing improved versions. Within 3 rotations, they would be developing technologies we have not yet imagined. War Marshal Thurok studied the projections with growing horror. These are theoretical extrapolations. Surely no species could adapt that rapidly. Are they? Veltar activated another display, showing historical human adaptation rates during major conflicts. When humans encountered new enemy technologies during their global wars, they typically achieved full integration and improvement within months, not years. The data was undeniable. Captured technologies being reverse-engineered and mass-produced faster than the enemy could modify their strategies to account for the compromise. And remember, Veltar added, this was accomplished using primitive manufacturing and communication systems. Imagine their adaptation speed with access to galactic standard fabrication technology and quantum communication networks. Representative Kyle Moth's crystalline voice carried deep concern. You paint a picture of an unstoppable enemy. Surely there must be some weakness, some vulnerability we could exploit. Veltar's breathing slits contracted, expressing profound unease. That is the most terrifying aspect of our analysis. We have found only one significant vulnerability in human psychology. The chamber focused intently on his words. Their greatest weakness is their emotional attachment to other humans. They will risk everything to protect their families, their communities, their species. They will accept any sacrifice if it means preserving human life. War Marshal Thurok's eyes brightened. Then we target their population centers, threaten their civilians, force them to surrender to protect their loved ones. Veltar's response chilled the entire assembly. War Marshal, that is not a weakness we can exploit. That is the activation trigger for their most dangerous capabilities. The holographic display showed human responses to threats against their populations. Entire civilizations mobilizing for total warfare. Unprecedented technological development driven by existential necessity. Individuals performing impossible feats when protecting their families. When humans perceive threats to their species, they do not become more cautious or surrender to preserve life. They become more dangerous than any force in the galaxy. Their emotional attachment does not make them weak. It makes them absolutely unstoppable. The display showed human parents fighting impossible odds to protect their children, communities holding out against overwhelming forces, entire nations sacrificing everything to ensure their people's survival. Threaten human civilians, and you do not create leverage for negotiation. You create an enemy that will fight with the fury of evolution itself, using every weapon, every strategy, and every resource, until either they are victorious or the last human dies fighting. Veltar's final presentation showed theoretical models of human resistance under existential threat. Technological development, accelerating beyond all previous rates, social coordination reaching unprecedented levels, individual determination exceeding all known biological limits. An invasion of Earth would not conquer humanity, he concluded. It would forge them into something the galaxy has never seen. A species united by existential threat, armed with galactic technology, and motivated by the survival of everything they love. The ambassador's breathing apparatus cycled one final time as he delivered his ultimate warning. Within 10 rotations of invasion, humanity would become the dominant military force in the galaxy. Within 20 rotations, they would be expanding beyond their home system, carrying with them the knowledge that hostile civilizations exist and must be neutralized to ensure human survival. The silence that followed was absolute. Every representative in the chamber understood the implications. An attack on Earth would not eliminate a potential threat. It would create an actual one that could destroy them all. War Marshal Thurok slowly sank back onto his platform, his aggressive posture completely abandoned. What do you recommend, Ambassador? Veltar's response echoed through the vast chamber with the weight of galactic policy. Leave them alone. Monitor from a distance. Let them develop at their own pace, and pray to whatever powers govern the universe that when they finally reach the stars, they come as friends and not as conquerors seeking revenge for an unprovoked attack on their homeworld. The vote, when it finally came, was unanimous. Earth would remain untouched. Its location classified at the highest levels. Its existence known only to the most trusted members of the galactic community. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, many carrying urgent messages to their home governments, Ambassador Veltar remained at his platform, staring at the final image on his display. Earth, blue and beautiful and utterly terrifying, hanging in the darkness of space like a sleeping predator that the galaxy had wisely chosen not to wake.